Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm Madelyn Burke, along with John Schmeelk. As a reminder, the phone number here is 201-939-4513, or find us on Twitter at #GiantsChat. Thank you for being with us. And also, you can find the entire archive of this show and our entire podcast network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and on giants.com/podcasts. You know how it goes. Schmeelk,
hello.
Big day, big Wednesday here.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Festivus to all those who celebrate. Get the aluminum pole out of the crawl space and all that good stuff.
Are you big on the airing of grievances?
You know, I'm feats of strength are more of my...
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't look as strong as I am.
So that's what happens on the Tuesday show with you and Howard. You just try to do the feats of strength with Howard Cross. Probably not the best person to do feats of strength with, just for the record.
He's a little bit stronger than me, just slightly, ever so slightly.
And by the way, that's a long list. Like, don't feel bad about that. Howard's stronger than like 98% of the U.S. population.
I absolutely agree. But we hope you had a great holiday as well. Giants kept it interesting over the holidays, of course.
They did.
Making the change at quarterback at halftime from Tommy DeVito to Tyrod Taylor. And today, Wednesday, this morning in media availability, Brian Daboll did confirm that on Sunday, when the Giants host the Rams at MetLife Stadium, it will be Tyrod Taylor starting at quarterback for the Giants.
Yeah, look, and Tyrod played well in the second half. And look, and I think when we went through this whole process, right, in a vacuum, in a neutral situation, given their history and what they've done in the past, is Tyrod Taylor a better quarterback or is Tommy DeVito, right? Tyrod Taylor has the pelts on the wall, for a lack of a better explanation, to make that argument. But the Giants were winning with Tommy DeVito. They won 3 straight. He was playing well. He wasn't turning the ball over, which is always a big issue for rookies. And he had earned that starting job.
Right.
And at that point, because the Giants were winning, to Brian Daboll's point, he gave them the best chance to win. Why change if you're winning football games, right? And we had a caller on our post-game show after the game on Monday calling to say, well, why didn't Daboll make this change at halftime at the Saints game? Well, Tommy DeVito had won 3 straight. You can't just pull the plug after 2 quarters.
Right.
It's a small sample size. You want to give the kid time, right?
Well, and you want to give the kid time to fight through some adversity
100%.
and see if he can make those adjustments himself.
And the Saints have been a good pass defense all year, right?
Yes.
So you go through 4 quarters against the Saints where the offense was not what you wanted it to be, right? The only reason they even got 6 points in that game is because 2 Saints penalties extended drives. So really the offense wasn't what you wanted for those 4 quarters. Then you get 2 more quarters of that against Philadelphia. It's 20-3. You're in a hostile environment. Try to get a spark. Now, I would argue the spark had more to do with the takeaways on special teams and defense.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Then Tyrod Taylor makes the really good throw to Darius Slayton late, puts you back in the game, makes it a one score game again. And moving forward, given what you've seen now over the last 8 quarters of football, I completely understand why you would go with Tyrod Taylor in that situation.
Right. And I think for all the Giants fans out there saying, well, look at this draft position, let's tank for that. Every single week, week in and week out, it is the job of the head coach to put this team in the best position to win a game. And you're not putting the team out there in the best position to draft a player, X, Y, Z.
No.
You are putting the team in the best position to win a game. You play to win the game, to quote Herm Edwards there.
And Dan Duggan, who covers the Giants for The Athletic, he was arguing with fans on Twitter that, well, this season, you're eliminated from the playoffs. Tyrod's a free agent after this year. You're playing for the future. Let DeVito roll out. And the point he made, and I think it was a good one, is if you're going to roll out Saquon Barkley,
right?
If you're going to roll out Dexter Lawrence, who's playing on a leg and a half because he has a hamstring issue, right?
Yep.
You owe it to those guys to put out the guy that gives you the best chance to win.
Right.
And I know that's going to drive some fans nuts because they're worried about the draft pick. And I understand that perspective from a fan's perspective.
Sure.
But the perspective of the players and coaches is that we're out there, we're playing a game. These guys are risking their livelihood and health going out there playing football. These guys are trying to play for contracts, right? Saquon's a free agent after the year. It helps him to have the quarterback that they think gives the team the best chance to win, right?
Yeah.
So you owe it to the players and all the hard work they put in to put the guy out there that you think gives yourself the best chance to win, even if it's not the guy that might not be here next year, in a year where you're not going to make the playoffs. You're mathematically eliminated. So that's how the team, I think, coaches and players approach that situation, even though fans might not think about it that way.
Right. And as you're coaching and building towards something, there's going to be a lot of players on this roster that are here next year, that are here for years to come. And you want to build a habit and a culture of getting out on the football field trying to win a game, no matter what the adversity, no matter what the situation, no matter if you are eliminated or you're playing spoiler. I mean, Jonathan Casillas was talking about this on our postgame show this week, saying, you know what, if you're playing spoiler, it's kind of fun. You know, it's a little bit freeing. Like, yes, it's disappointing. You start every season hoping to win a Super Bowl, but once you realize that's out of the picture, okay, if
you
I
literally
can't,
have nothing to lose.
I'm gonna it's my job to take it away from you. And that's kind of the joy of it too. And these guys are going out there, putting their best tape out there. And also for the guys who are not going to be on this roster next year, there's a lot of people who are coming up on free agent deals or things like that. They're putting their best tape out there as well, because there's
100%.
31 other teams that are going to be watching this tape. And so it's not just playing for your team, it's playing for yourself and for your career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have a guy like, I'll throw a couple names out there. A guy like Tyree Phillips, who the Giants pulled off of the practice squad of the Philadelphia Eagles after cutting him in early September on Labor Day weekend, right? Or I guess it's the week before Labor Day weekend now. But he's a guy that, if he plays really well these next 2 games, can he find a starting job somewhere next year? Has he been good enough to do that, right? That's a guy you keep an eye on. A guy like, say, Darnay Holmes, who's a free agent after the year. A guy like Xavier McKinney, who's a free agent after the year. You know, maybe they'll be back, but the better they play, and I think McKinney's had a pretty good second half of the year here, the free agent interest from other teams it's going to be higher.
Well, and availability is the best ability. McKinney and Okereke playing every single defensive snap. Only 3 defensive players in the league playing every single snap, like that right there. I mean, yeah, something to take pride in over the season.
Yeah, and I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau's not every snap, but the number of snaps he's played this year as a defensive lineman has been off the charts. So, yeah, look, 100% right. These guys are playing to play spoiler, but this is also a self-interest thing, to your point, and there's nothing wrong with that. All of us have self-interest in mind in everything that we do.
Yeah, you got to take pride in what you do.
Exactly. But it's also the team dynamic too, right? You're playing for pride. You want to end the season with as many wins as you can. You don't want to go into next year feeling bad about what you're doing. And no, do things really carry over? The teams change? No, it doesn't. But that's still how you want to go into your offseason. And look, you're playing 2 teams that are measuring stick teams, right? And I think as you make big decisions here this offseason, Madelyn, right? We talked about some of the free agents. Saquon Barkley's a free agent. You're going to have a high draft pick. Xavier McKinney's a free agent. And you have to decide where this team is, how they measure up against some of the better teams in the league. And that'll guide your decision-making process this offseason, right? So it's hard to judge against the early season games against the Dolphins and the Cowboys and the 49ers and even the Bills.
Right.
Because so many guys were hurt. You know, Andrew Thomas wasn't there. Saquon wasn't there. Now Daniel Jones isn't there. But the rest of the roster is a lot healthier now than it was at the beginning of the year. So I think you saw, and this was a question we got too in the postgame show on the radio on Monday night, well, did this game show that the Giants had closed the gap with Philadelphia? And my answer, have they reached Philadelphia's level yet? No. One team's 5-10, one team's 11-4. They have not reached the Eagles' level yet.
Right.
But were they a hell of a lot more competitive in this game this year than they were last year? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So do I think the space between the 2 teams has shrunk? Now, we can argue is that the Giants going up, is that the Eagles coming down, and what the level of that is. We can have that argument.
As long as the gap is closing.
As long as the gap is closing. And I think we want to see that against the Rams. I think both of us think the Rams are going to be a playoff team, and frankly, be a dangerous playoff team that not a lot of teams want to play.
Yeah, I think right now the odds are like 75% chance of them making the playoffs.
Yeah, they and the Seahawks both control their own destiny, right?
Absolutely,
if they win out, they're going to be the 6th and 7th teams in the NFC wildcard picture. And they have some really good players.
Right.
You know what I mean? How is Ben Bredeson going to block Aaron Donald? If he blocks Aaron Donald, well, all right, then maybe you feel a little bit better about him maybe being a starting guard next year, right?
Right.
How does Cordell Flott cover Cooper Kupp?
Right.
That's a guy. Is he going to be your starting slot guy next year? We don't know that answer right now, right?
You got Puka Nacua, the 177th draft pick, who's 147 yards away from setting the rookie wide receiver record. So for all those people saying, "Oh, we need a higher draft pick," look at Puka Nacua. It's a 5th round guy.
Right. And look, this is not the NBA.
No.
Right. And both of us follow the NBA a lot. We cover it. And in the NBA, you'll get to a draft, and there's in some drafts one difference-making player.
Right.
One. And look, there are freak show guys. You can find Nikola Jokic late one year or Giannis late, but these are like once every 5 or 6 year type of scenarios.
Right.
In the NFL, you're going to have good players up and down. Like
Right.
you can find that oftentimes in a draft, the player that's picked 8th is better than the player that's picked 3rd or 4th.
Well, and a lot of it has to do with situation, right? The player that's picked 8th, had he gone to Team X instead of Team Y, would not have had the same career, because whether it be opportunity or scheme or teammates or what have you, the situation you find yourself in has almost as much to do with your level of success as your talent.
I'll just look at last year's draft very simply, Madelyn. If you swapped Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, what did their rookie years look like?
Right, exactly. I mean that's hard to say too, because it's like you look at the talent level, but you also look at the coaching, you look at the team around them, you look at the talent, you look at the matchups, the teams they're playing. I mean, take the Giants for example. We talk about closing the talent gap. That was the point of emphasis Joe Shane made at the postseason press conference last year. And the Giants were 9-7-1 last year, went to the playoffs, won a playoff game. They won one game in the division last season. One game and tied one with Washington. This year, they've won 2 games, so that's progress in the division, with one remaining to be seen. But again, we talk about closing the gap. If you've got your out-of-division schedule that's a little bit tougher, that's not going to bode well for you.
Correct. And look, and I think you're exactly right. I think the difference in the records from last year to this year has a lot more to do with the schedule and the injuries early in the year than it does anything else, to be honest with you. I mean, I think that's they've won a couple fewer close games than they won last year. They really nearly every close game at the end of last year, they figured out a way to win. Right. And look, that's not going to happen every year. We talked about that in the offseason, and that hasn't happened this year, right? You had the Bills game, you had the Jets game, and that's going to happen. That's the NFL. So you take those 3 factors, losing a couple more close games than you lost, injuries, tougher schedule, that gets you from 9-7-1 to where they are right now, 5-10.
Right, and in years past, the Giants were on the losing end of those close games. Last year, they were on the winning side of them, as the pendulum swings both ways, right?
And now, look, there were way too many blowout losses earlier in the year.
Right.
They were.
Right.
No one's arguing that. But again, you got to look at the why on those. And again, talking about the importance of these last couple games, you take a look at the Giants' defense this week. This is a huge test against the Rams.
Right.
You look at any of the major metrics from EPA to yards per game, whatever you want to look at, this is one of the best offenses in the league. You look at what they've done in the second half of the year, this is probably a top 2 or 3 offense in the league.
Yeah.
They are that good. They could run with Kyron Williams, Matthew Stafford, even though the numbers aren't what you're looking at with the Brock Purdy's and the Dak Prescott's and the Lamar Jacksons. He's playing at an MVP level. He's playing like one of the 3 or 4 or 5 best quarterbacks in the entire league. You mentioned the 2 receivers in Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. They're fantastic. So this, to me, you want to look at a barometer. You want to see what players can handle really good offenses. See how this Giants defense handles the Rams offense this week, because it's a huge test.
Right, and especially too that now that these players are all healthy and on the field together, that's why the Rams have won 5 of the last 6 games and put up 28 points in each of their last 5 outings, 28 or more. So they're scoring, their offense is good, they're healthy, they're on the field together, and they're peaking at the right time, which, like you said, great test for this Giants defense.
I wish Dexter Lawrence had 2 good hamstrings, but other than that, the Giants defense is relatively healthy.
But even still, on 1.5 good hamstrings, that man can move.
Yes, he can.
That man
can.
I mean, he weighs probably 2.5 times what I weigh, and he would beat me in a race.
He beat all of us in a race.
He beat all of us in a race.
Absolutely. And that's why he's one of the best defensive tackles in football.
That is absolutely why, and that is why I'm talking about him.
And by the way, and just to point out how awesome the NFL is, you have 2 guys, and I know one's a 3 technique, one's a nose tackle. I get that.
Yeah.
2 guys that play the same position in Aaron Donald and Dexter Lawrence. If you stood them next to each other, you would never think those guys play the same position.
Right.
I mean, Dexter Lawrence, I don't know what Aaron Donald's current playing weight is. Dexter Lawrence has to have 60 pounds on him, right? 60 pounds.
Yeah.
For them to both be probably 1 and 2 at their position in the league and look that different just shows you why, to me, the NFL is so awesome, because you can do it in different ways.
It is incredible. Yeah, you can find a different way. There's, more than one way to skin a cat?
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
expression, right? There's more than one
way to sack a quarterback.
Sack a quarterback, indeed. Giants fans, take your fandom to the next level with a season ticket membership. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are available now for the 2023 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. Let's turn our attention to the phone lines here. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. We've got Cliff in New York. You're on the line with Madelyn and John on Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Hey, Cliff.
Hey guys, great to see you. I'm not sure which one is the host, but that's all right. It's a multi-skilled
co-host,
team.
Cliff. Co-host.
Well, then you're and co-analyst.
Sure.
Co-analyst.
That too.
Right.
You know?
So anyway, picking up on the progress from yesterday, and Howard's been talking about it for more than just this week. That's been my game for a long time. I found out listening to the fan in the car one day that going into the last season that Gettleman and Judge had, that there were fans that were really sold on progress that was being made, and that I said, yeah, that's me, and then the commentator says that's about 25% of the fan base. So I'm sticking with that. I don't care if it's a minority position.
Well, Cliff, the problem of the last year of Judge and Gettleman, what happened in that year in the final 6 games is that Daniel Jones got hurt, and you were looking at
It showed the importance of a backup quarterback.
A rough quarterback situation that made everything look a lot worse than I think it actually was. And that's something I said at the time. When my quote when Daniel Jones got hurt this year is that nothing from this point on to me is going to impact how I think about this team, just because you lose your starting quarterback and that's what you're dealing with. Now, everything went so sideways that year that big changes ended up being made. But Cliff, no question, I think there has been progress this year. And I think, to me, the biggest point of progress has been on the offensive line. And I know they gave up the 7 sacks to the Saints last week. You go back and you look at it, Justin Pugh had a rough day. Otherwise, it wasn't terrible. And is the offensive line where you want it to be, even the way it's playing now? No. It needs to, be much better. But is it better than it was the first 8 games of the year? And yes, accepting that's a low bar, yes, I think it has been.
Yeah. Well, and you want the arrow to be pointing up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it sure is. Looking at the closing the gap thing, like we were talking in the post game, and I noticed that the players were much less interested in that question in the locker room than we were on the show. You know, the writers were posing the same question. You guys think you closed the gap? And the players were like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, Cliff. Here's the thing with players. With players, it's usually a black and white deal, man. You either win or you lose. There are no participation trophies. There's no, we were close. We got within 2 points. Players don't care about that
better than we
stuff.
were last year. This and that. Yeah. No. We were one, missed tackle away from what? No.
Well, anyway, the feeling that I had that we did show that we closed the gap, and I was thinking, well, maybe it wasn't necessarily the talent gap so much. And then I was just thinking, listening to you guys, wait a minute. I think there was a difference in the talent gap in the tight end position in this game. Even though we didn't like what happened with Waller early, if we put Waller and Bellinger together, that was a pretty good improvement at that position from when we played them last.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But by the way, Dallas Goedert's awesome too, by the way.
Yeah.
I know.
But the ability to use Waller as a decoy a little bit to get Bellinger the ball and some of those, you're right.
Hey, look, and Waller could have had the biggest and most important play of the game for the Giants if Tyrod Taylor didn't throw that ball a little bit short, too. I mean, that would have been a third down conversion, and if he hits it in stride, he could have turned the field and scored a touchdown.
But that's a hard throw to make, across your body, going left.
Yes,
that's a really hard throw for any quarterback, unless you're Patrick Mahomes.
And you don't have to perfectly put it on him, but you at least got to give the guy a chance to make the play.
You got to get the distance,
How much did you count the pressure on that play?
I get it. We're NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Tyrod will, if you talk to Tyrod Taylor, he'll tell you, I need to make that. And again, maybe don't hit him perfectly in stride.
Right.
Put it right on the money.
Maybe he's got to reach for it, but the distance has to be there.
At least give the guy a chance to make a play.
Right.
All right. Well, with Brett, you mentioned Bredesen. I was really pulling for him at the beginning of the year, and the reason I was so big on him is because when I found out that he came from the Ravens, and the Ravens is one of the organizations we think has known how to get it right consistently for a long time, and he was a 4th rounder with them.
Yep.
And I don't know if we got him directly from them or not, maybe not, but I have no idea how they're grading him and how you figure out how well individual guys are, but I'm looking for maybe. I really am back into. I never lost interest in the balance of this season, and I was really not happy with people wanting to talk about the draft a couple of weeks ago, and I'm glad it was resisted as much as it was. We still have something that's really worth paying attention to right now, and I think we've got a really good shot at some really good performances the last 2 games. But I did start to think just a little bit that there's a problem that I've been learning about on this show, that maybe it's not as easy to develop players as it used to be, especially in the offensive line. And if that's the case, maybe free agency is going to have more to do with it. You take advantage of what somebody else's development already did. Do you think that might happen?
Yeah, and Cliff, appreciate the call.
Thanks, Cliff.
Yes, it is tougher to develop offensive linemen with the way practices are in the offseason. And I would have, if this team wants to go out there and spend some money on a guard this offseason and find somebody near the top of the market that they think it's going to be a really good player that's going to be a plus there, I would have no problem with
But
that.
the problem is the guys at the top of the market in the offensive line don't often come onto the market, don't often come available, because if they're playing well, the team that they're on is probably going to lock that down.
Usually the guys at the top of the offensive line market are actually second or third tier offensive linemen, because to your point, all the first tier guys get re-signed.
Exactly.
Yep, no, you're
exactly. And, there's an interesting conversation going around on social media today. I believe it was Matt Miller was saying, how good does an offensive lineman have to be use a first round draft pick on? Because some say, oh, no, you don't take a lineman in the first round. And some say, absolutely.
Oh, offensive tackle, certainly.
Tackle, absolutely. Center guard, different story.
I think once you get past 20, depending on the draft, obviously, and who's available and all those caveats, sure. Mm-hmm. But if you think you have an all-pro guard there or an all-pro center, I have no problem getting into the second half of round 1 taking one of those guys. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
But again, you better be right.
Right, exactly. It's got it. But that's the thing. It's all fish in a barrel a little bit to an extent.
No, look, the draft isn't an exact science. We know that. I mean, if you just go back and look at even the first rounds over the past decade,
right.
There are at least 10 misses in every single one of those.
How many draft analysts were pounding the table for Josh Rosen as and he's not in the league. And that's not a specific dig at Josh Rosen, but I'm just saying that especially with quarterback position or some of these first round picks, you think this guy's going to be a generational talent. It's hard to translate the game, especially the quarterback position. From college to NFL.
Even outside of the quarterback position, but to your point, it's just hard.
Right. Well,
it's
and
hard.
the quarterback position is hard, especially because, number one, not only is it a different ball. Okay, fine, sure. The geometry of the game is different. The hash marks are at a different point. There's different angles. That every route is a different angle. There's so many different things. And yes, it is the same basics, but to go from college to pro, and people, that's why every year you have this. Oh, this guy's going to be good. You think.
And more often than not, a quarterback is. For a guy like Bryce Young, for example, he's coming from a program where his team had the talent advantage over every other team they're going to play against, right? Yeah. And then you go to another team, say, let's say you go back and you think about a Baker Mayfield, for example.
Right.
He came from a scheme in college that is going to be nothing like the scheme that he plays at the NFL.
Right.
So you're evaluating quarterback playing in a system that's going to be nothing like what you're asking him to do.
Right.
All of that together just makes it hard, but even outside of quarterback, Madelyn, just go back. Even just from this draft class, it was pretty universal. People thought Quentin Johnson should be a first-round wide receiver. He couldn't even get on the field for the Chargers until guys started getting hurt, and then he still couldn't necessarily produce at a high level.
Right.
And wide receiver, I think, is generally considered an easier position to evaluate. Right. Mm-hmm. You can watch guys run routes. You have all the measurements at the combine. That's a position I think we've, for the most part, kind of figured out. But
I think it's also a position that is perennially pretty deep lately as well.
That too. You have a lot of guys to choose from.
You got a lot of options. You can take one early. You can take one late. You're still in a good position.
No, 100%. Yeah. And look, it's tough. For example, Washington took Emmanuel Forbes before Deontay Banks, before Christian Gonzalez, before Joey Porter Jr. How's that worked out?
Exactly.
Not well. It's a very, very, very hard thing to do. Figuring out how a oftentimes 20-year-old who can't even drink yet is going to, first of all, handle everything that comes along with becoming an NFL player.
Right.
Not to mention...
Not even allowed to rent a car, but now you're going to be a professional and
getting $1 million in your bank account. How are you going to handle that as a person? But more than that, again, how you're going to go from playing the college game, and you made a great point on the hash marks, and then you go from the schemes and the systems is so much different than the NFL game. It's hard.
Hindsight
is
2020, though.
Yeah.
But, we got a little bit more time before we fully turn our attention to the draft here.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness, indeed. Giants fans, the 2023 NFL schedule is officially out. Single game tickets are on sale now. Don't forget, we got 2 more home games at MetLife Stadium.
Good opponents.
Good opponents, too. Don't miss the Giants at MetLife Stadium this season. You got the Rams this week. You got the Eagles to close it out. Visit Giants.com/tickets to secure your seat.
And we still don't know when that Eagle game is going to be, by the way. So that could be a Saturday.
It could be Saturday. My guess, and this is a complete guess, but just based on what I know, what I understand, is that it would be Sunday. I would guess that they would put Giants-Eagles at the same time as Cowboys as Washington.
I think it all depends on whether or not that's still a question, right? Because if the Dallas loses to Detroit this week,
then it doesn't matter.
Then I don't think it matters then, as long as the Eagles beat Arizona, which I think we all think is probably, well, who knows? It's
likely,
the NFL.
but you never know.
Who knows what's going to happen? So then I think
Arizona beat Dallas.
I think it all depends on then. Are the Eagles, although still in play for the 1 seed,
right,
with San Francisco? So maybe then they would want to have the Eagles play first, so their game matters before the 49ers play. So then they put the Eagles on Saturday,
right?
And that'll be announced probably either Sunday night or Monday morning.
My understanding is that we will know as soon as our game is over this weekend.
Okay,
so
good to know.
I would assume that if you tune into the Giants post-game show, either on radio or on television, we will be able to let you know when the Eagles-Giants game is.
Sometimes they wait until after the 4:00 games before they figure it out exactly. Because then I'm assuming San Francisco is playing at 4:00 this week. I haven't looked at it. I'm assuming that they are.
True.
So, but by the end of the day on Sunday, we should know for sure. Hopefully, to your point on the Giants post-game show on TV, we can find Madelyn and me on the radio, and we'll get that to you as soon as that information gets released.
And hopefully, at least we'll know what day it is by then. Saturday or Sunday.
That would be
time
nice.
slot different, but I would be surprised because Saturday, of course, all the games on Saturday will be prime time or national games,
standalone games, correct.
Games. Whereas Sunday, and I think especially if there is any question within the division, who's going to win the division, they might put the NFC East games on all simultaneously.
100%. If there is a question in the NFC East, Dallas, Philadelphia, they will play those games at the same time.
Yeah,
1,000% agree with you
so
on that. Yes.
that would have to be Sunday if that's going to be.
That would 90% be. I would imagine probably Sunday at 1:00 would be my guess, because they'd want to make the 4:00 game one of those win and you're in type of scenarios.
Right.
Which, if there are some of those, and I think in the AFC you'll probably have one or two given how tight that is.
Right.
But we'll have to wait and see and find out.
To be determined, right? I mean, who would have thought, too? 17 weeks into the season, there's still so much up in the air. That's why we love the National Football League.
And that's why they added the extra wild card.
That's why they did.
That's why they did it.
Grab the popcorn, folks. 201-939-4513 is the phone number as we go back to the phone lines. Len in Maryland, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Madelyn and Schmeelk. How's it going, Len?
It's going good. Hey, guys, how you doing?
We're
Happy
great.
New Year.
Long time no speak, my friend. How are you? Happy New Year.
Yes. It's good to talk. Good to talk to you again. I'm sorry, John, I missed that.
No, I just said long time no speak, man. Happy New Year. That's it.
Yes, Happy New Year to you too. Yes, indeed. Well, Madelyn, I finally got an opportunity this year to say my once-a-year statement. You guys have given me the opportunity. So let me say this: we are not going to beat the Ravens with ex-Ravens players starting for us.
It's funny, Len, you said that, and I almost countered to Cliff. Well, Cliff, the Ravens decided to trade away Ben Bredeson, so if you trust their evaluation, then maybe that's not exactly what you think it is. I came that close to say it, I decided not to.
You got to get the guy the Ravens kept over Ben.
Right.
There you go.
That's how you beat the Ravens. I'm not sure we've bought into that in management circles and corporate center.
Well, Len, it is hard to take a player away from another team when they want that player. It's not
exactly. It's not like you can walk up to somebody and say, "Excuse me, sir, I'd like to have your wife."
You can't sneak into their facility overnight and kidnap the player.
Right?
That's not how this works.
You play for me now.
Yes, exactly.
Let me say this gently. We need more productivity out of the guard position next year.
I think that's an accurate statement, Len.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me throw out a name, by the way.
Throw out names. We like it.
The second, I shouldn't call him the second. Maybe he's the first. Both Ravens guards are free agents. Zeitler, I'm not sure we're going to go in that direction again.
Yeah, he's a little older.
But he sure has had a nice career in Baltimore. Pretty good. But the guy on the other side, a guy named Simpson, young player, undrafted free agent.
From Clemson, if I recall, correct? John Simpson? I think John Simpson, right, is his first name? Am I wrong about that?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, I'm not sure either. I'm trying to pull it back, and now I've drawn a blank on that. But Simpson is his name.
Yep. John
pretty
Simpson.
Good player. Worth a look. Worth a look.
Yeah. Yes, and he did go to Clemson, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we're 5-10. 2 games to go. It'll soon be over. A couple of things with the Rams. The team speed is just unbelievable.
No, they're good.
Yeah.
They're good.
I can say with that speed. And the biggest thing with me is Kyren Williams. First of all, let me tell Madelyn. John knows this. I have a bias toward Notre Dame players.
Okay.
I never understood the 5th round on Williams, John.
Now, I'll be honest with you, Len, and look, and I will brag about my hits, and I will admit to my misses. I was not a huge Kyren Williams guy coming out. I thought he was at best a 3rd round back. I liked him as a receiver. When you're not big, and he was 5'9", 195, and you're slow, I have a hard time buying you as a full-time running back. And by the way, Len, that's why, again, I go back to our previous conversation about why the NFL is awesome. You know, you find the right guy in the right system. Maybe you're not the best athlete. Maybe you don't hit all the measurables. There are exceptions, and I think Kyren Williams is proving to be an exception.
And
not
only is he proving to be an exception, he's one of just 3 players in the league right now to average over 100 yards from scrimmage and have 10 or more touchdowns in this season.
That's a good nugget.
Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, Kyren Williams.
It's crazy.
So it's doing all right.
I'm not sure, John. I get it. 194. I think 5'10", 194. I mean, I get that. And he had a terrible combine. I mean, he ran like he ran like 4.68 or something.
And by the way, if you watch him, Len, he doesn't pull away from people. Like he's not even his game speed is not fast, but he's very quick.
Yeah.
He has really good vision. He's low to the ground. All those things work for him.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, you watch him 3 years at Notre Dame, and then you go to the combine. I mean, come on. He did at Notre Dame. He ran the ball. He catches the ball. He blocks like heck.
Len,
he will return kickoffs for you.
Len, I will happily take the L on that. I was not even the combine aside. Watching his tape, I just didn't think he had enough juice in him to be that good in the NFL, and I will happily take the L on that.
Okay, let me move on.
Yes.
Something you guys talked about earlier, I think is important. Between the practice, not the practice squad. The injured reserve, we've got 12 players on there. Between the injured reserve and the 53-man roster, 65 players, 28 of them are without contracts next year.
That sounds about right. I haven't counted,
so
but sure.
This is opportunity time. You guys were referring to that. You talked about Phillips, big opportunity for Tyree. I like for us to quietly be able to sign him. I'm not sure we're going to be able to pay him swing tackle money and keep him here. Somebody's going to scoff him up. He's playing pretty well.
Yeah.
And people are going to start to notice, over these last 6 or 7 games that he's played. But yeah, huge opportunity. Hey, Eagles game, progress, closing the gap. If we lose in Week 18 to the Eagles, we will be 0-9 against the Eagles and the Cowboys in the last 2 years. I take the player's point of view. That's not growth.
Oh, no, Len, 100%.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
Really. I thought we played hard. Madelyn, the first pro football game I ever saw, Dad took me in 1952, Polo Grounds, Giants-Eagles. Eagles beat us that day. I don't quite remember the score. I'd have to go back and check that, but they beat us. And Madelyn, to keep it politically correct, I have disliked the Eagles every day since that day.
That's fair, Len. That is very fair.
Is it true that you sat next to Paul Catino
in November?
No.
In November of 1952.
November what? Do we know the date?
The Philadelphia Eagles. There's only one. John knows this because we've had discussions about this every preseason. There's only one team I dislike more, and that's the New York Jets. But in any event, I don't like to lose to the Eagles. I dislike that tremendously.
I think that most Giant fans do, Len.
I hear you, Len.
All right. You got anything else, Len? Or we got to run.
Okay, good talking to you.
Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year.
Good
Happy
to talk to you, Len.
holidays. Good stuff, Len. Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, well, let's keep it moving on the phone lines because they're filling up right here. 201-939-4513. Hugo in New Jersey, you're on the line now with Madelyn and John on Big Blue Kickoff. How's it going?
You go.
Hey guys, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
One of the, I guess, side benefits of the Giants playing so many primetime games is I get to watch other games around the league. And, what's really struck me this year is that a lot of guys who wore our colors are really playing very well for other teams. And Kevin Zeitler was a name that was mentioned. Mm-hmm. Even watching some of the Pittsburgh game, Marcus Golden. I don't know why we jettisoned that guy so quickly. I think he gave us 10 sacks, and then we were quick to jettison him. And now we're very thin at edge. And anyhow, Julian Love, obviously, lately has been making big plays. But there's a bunch of those guys, just a bunch of those guys.
Well, yeah, Julian Love was somebody that the Giants did make an honest effort to bring back, and he could have come back and probably made more than he's making in Seattle right now. That was a negotiation issue, not a Giants not wanting Julian Love back.
No, I understand. My broader point is that there's a lot of former Giants doing really good work around the league. Maybe one of the reasons we're not so good is because some of the guys that would have been good on our team are with other teams. But anyhow, to the Eagles game. Last week I talked about what I thought were the keys to victory, and I really do think that if Tyrod Taylor started this game, the Giants would have won. And remember, one of my premises was that the middle of the field would be open for guys like Waller, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Saquon Barkley in the pass game. I don't really know this, but some other people who I respect who watched the old 22 said that the Eagles were really trying to prevent the deep pass.
Yes, they did,
and that the middle was open, but DeVito wasn't taking it.
In fairness, Tyrod Taylor really didn't throw it in the middle of the field either.
Right.
I actually think I don't know. I got this sense from watching it on TV that once Taylor came into the game, the Eagles started playing it slightly different. Maybe that's what opened.
Not really. Not really.
No. Okay.
No, not
okay.
really.
Fair enough.
It's also
look.
And Hugo, honestly, I think a big reason too. I think the Giants called a much more conservative brand of plays in that first half. They ran like 5 or 6 wide receiver screens. Mm-hmm. And I think once they saw that maybe they could block up that Eagles front a little bit better, and then Tyrod came in, I think they were willing to open up a little bit more in terms of how they were calling plays.
Right,
too.
because when you're max protecting and you're not sending as many guys down the field, you're getting double coverage more often than you would be just because the numbers don't add up.
Yeah, so when I think about the big change from other recent Eagles games, is the quarterback had a pretty good pocket on a number of occasions in that game, and that actually surprised me. One thing that didn't surprise me, but I warned against, was when they needed to run, they ran it right down our throats. So that's been a problem all year and continues to be a problem with the Eagles. Now, they have a good offensive line. There's no doubt about it.
No, look, the Giants' rush defense has to get better, Hugo. They've given up way too many yards for way too many weeks in a row. Nobody would argue that.
Absolutely. So that's my kind of my flashback to the Eagles game. Now, you guys were talking about roster needs. I think it was you and Paul Dottino, John, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, during the bye week. Yep.
Ago. Yeah, and one thing that really surprised me that you didn't include. I mean, you included the typical thing. It's edge, wide receiver, offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, we love the second-round pick we got in the Leonard Williams trade, but we kind of got to replace someone we got to put someone on the defensive line that's a two-way player to go along with Dexter Williams. Now, that's easier said than done.
Dexter Williams.
I think there's going to be some. I think there's going to be some good free agents, but who knows who's going to get franchised, right? Because it's a valuable position. But we really need another two-way guy. We got, Ashawn, he's a run stopper. Nacho's a run stopper. But we need another guy who has a pass rush presence from the middle.
A three technique.
To go along with Dexter.
A three
What's that?
I said a three technique.
Yeah.
Yes, more of a pass rushing defensive tackle. No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think that's a need, Hugo. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. That's fair.
Okay, fair enough. Now, Joe Shane said he wants to address the quarterback position somehow in the offseason. Here are my initial thoughts on that. If it's through the draft, one, obviously don't reach. The other thing I would say is I'm generally against giving up assets to move up.
So am I, generally speaking, I am as well.
Yeah, I know the Giants did it with Eli Manning, and by the way, I was against that move, but it turned out well.
Yeah, a little bit.
Worked out.
But let's be clear. The reason it worked out is because in 2005, with only 4 draft picks, a second, a third, a fourth, and a sixth, Ernie Accorsi did the following.
Yeah, Brandon Jacobs, Justin Tuck.
Justin Tuck, Corey Webster.
Yep.
And in 2005 free agency, Antonio Pierce, Plaxico Burress, Kareem McKenzie. That kind of hit rate is something you can't rely on.
You also got David Deal in the 4th round, too, in one of those years, too, by the way, starting left tackle for 2 Super Bowl teams.
He was drafted in 2003. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But my point is that it's in that same window.
Right.
Yeah. And in the second round in 2004, when they drafted Eli, they took Snee in the second round. So
right.
He did yeoman's work in those middle rounds and in free agency.
Yeah.
And, we just haven't seen that kind of hit rate recently.
Well, and again, hindsight is
20/20.
Thank you so much for the call, Hugo. I mean, it's your choices are as good as anyone else's if you do.
A couple more players, but he brought up defensive tackle, Madelyn.
Yeah.
Jordan Riley, DJ Davidson.
Yeah.
Against Aaron
Jordan
Donald.
Riley, ASU.
Yeah, I mean, rather against that Rams offensive line.
Right.
That's going to be, I think, the Rams defensive line part of offensive line. Wow, my head's all over the place.
Right.
That is going to be fun to watch those guys the last couple weeks here to see. To his point, how much faith do you have in those two guys, and what role would you have him in moving forward? And A'Shawn Robinson's a free agent. I think he's been good all year. Nacho's still under contract, so he'll be back. But how much can you depend on those young guys moving forward here as you kind of decide where you want to use them? And then we'll see about Deonte Banks. He was supposed to practice today. He did leave that game with a shoulder injury. Could we see Trey Hawkins emerge at some point and play a little bit last couple games to see what maybe he can give you? Or will it be Nick McLeod, who kind of took that role last week after Deonte Banks stepped out? So a couple things to keep an eye on.
Couple things indeed. Giants fans, Giants official connected TV streaming app Giants TV brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV and the Giants mobile app. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Back to the phone lines we go. Tim in Charleston, you're on the line with Madelyn and John. How's it going, Tim?
Hi, Tim.
Hey, John. Hey, Madelyn. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy holidays.
You too.
Same to you.
And I've got it's like every time Hugo calls, he's got the most pleasant voice.
Oh, what a compliment.
That is a nice compliment.
Yeah,
he's a smart caller, too. Hugo knows his stuff.
Yeah, no, he is. But he's just so calm and pleasant when he talks. There's not a harshness about him. I love it.
We got to get Hugo to record some of those sleep stories.
Every time I hear him coming on the line, I smile.
The question is, could he get Tino to sleep?
Oh, not if he's talking about the Giants. Tino's wide awake for that.
Yeah, he would have to talk about something that Tino was not interested in.
Talk about Bravo or something.
So before,
let me tell you about the Real Housewives.
So
TKO.
Before I get into my actual commentary, I want to throw a bone Madelyn's way, which is like, it's. I mean, you just said something. I mean, boom. You have such incredible insights as an analyst.
Thank
that
you.
I'm going to miss you when one of the networks scoop you up and give you a lot of friggin' money. So because that's got to come one day. And I don't know if you listen to the Citizens commercials yet, but it sounds like you. You should be doing voiceovers. You should be working for a network, but I don't want to lose you from BBKL.
Oh,
so anyway,
me and Hugo up there in your voice favors.
Yeah.
I've heard that, but it's not me. I don't know who does the Citizens commercials.
I know, yeah.
Or at least it's not me to my knowledge.
Oh, Tim, you mean the ones on TV or the ones on the radio?
The ones on the app. The ones on the app.
Oh, okay.
You guys
I got
probably
you. I got
you don't hear your own commercials.
No, we do not.
But,
Yes.
yeah. So
Pearson, hold on, Tim, hold on,
Pearson
1 second.
does.
Pearson, do you think the VO on the commercial sounds like Madelyn?
It's somewhat similar. I wouldn't say it's spot on, but it's pretty close.
All right, Pearson vetoes your comment. Tim, what else do you got for us?
no, that's not a.
yeah, that's a veto.
Well,
like,
Pearson knows my voice.
like-
Pearson edits my voice all the time, so he probably knows it way too well. Yeah.
I hear it. I hear it a little bit, Tim.
I know Pearson well. That was him being nice but disagreeing with you, but that's okay.
All right, whatever. You listen to it yourself, John, and
I
you
will.
tell me it doesn't sound like
Yes,
Madelyn.
I will listen.
So I'm going to shock you guys because I'm not at the bar today. I'm not having a beer.
What?
But I'm on my big 15 by 23 foot patio. But I am having a cigar and a drink because it's
Down
my
to the
last
foot.
day before I go back to work tomorrow for Christmas.
Cold beer
after
Wednesday.
Christmas vacation.
Nice.
But anyway, back to the Giants. Last game, you know what? I know we lost. A couple of plays had a couple of missed opportunities, a couple of horrible officiating calls, and maybe we win that game. But you know what? It's fine. We were, like Howard has said, I want to see us be competitive, more show that we can, and we did. We showed that we could play with the Eagles. We could have beaten them. So the next two games, I don't know it. I mean, I think we maybe have a slender shot against the Rams, and you never know when we get the Eagles at home. But if
Tim, you'll laugh. I actually like the Giants' chances against the Eagles in Week 18 better than I do against the Rams this week, to be quite honest with you. I think the Rams right now
Really?
are a better football team than the Eagles. I do.
When the Rams are peaking
Wow.
right now, they're playing some of their best football,
Wow.
whereas the Eagles,
Yeah, they are.
even when they were at their best this season, the Eagles were kind of finding ways to win the games and kind of lucking into some wins respectfully instead of dominating in the way that they did last season.
Agreed. I'm going to look real quick at their point differential because I like to use that. The Eagles right now are plus 26 this year, and the Rams are plus 25. So they're literally equal in point differential.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's funny because I have a high school friend, and one of the reasons I love Facebook is because I have close friends from high school. I mean, we weren't close friends in high school. We passed in the halls and said hello, and but now we're close friends because of Facebook. So that's one thing I love about it. But I got one guy, Andre, who is a huge Rams fan, and he always rubs it in my face. So I'm going to probably secede this game to him before it starts, just so he doesn't. But anyhow, yeah, it's like I just feel like if we can show that we can play with these teams, then I think that brightens the prospects for next year. A good draft. We have some money to spend in free agency. I think like Hugo said, Len said, I mean, guards are affordable in free agency. Let's go get a guard. Let's draft trench players. And, maybe if we could find a wide receiver, as I've said before. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. I love all the content. After this show's over, I'm going to go listen to the last couple episodes of draft season because I'm probably a week behind, John. So I love to always plug your
I appreciate
your
that.
additional podcasts.
And go check out the Giants Huddle podcast, too. My interview with O'Hara will be going up this afternoon.
Amazing.
If Pearson
Yeah,
stops slacking.
I looked to see if that was up before this show, so I would have something to do.
Nah, Tim, unfortunately, with the Monday game, we don't record that till Wednesday. So we literally recorded that
Wednesday,
up
yeah.
until the second that this show started.
Yeah.
So Pearson will turn it around this
Yeah.
afternoon.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been on before this, but thank you guys.
Thanks,
love
Tim.
you,
Thanks,
love
Tim.
You, love you all, and almost all of you.
I'm curious if he was
And-
not involved in that. Pearson, I think he's a problem with you.
Uh-oh. Enjoy that porch,
it's that-
Tim.
She sounds just like the Citizens lady. Is that better?
It's not Pearson. I love
Citizens
Pearson.
made ready.
Pearson's awesome. Pearson's awesome, and but anyway, guys.
Nobody likes Lance.
You
We get
guys.
it.
You guys do.
That's the worst.
I didn't say the name.
No disagreeing.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Enjoy
Appreciate
that
it.
porch cigar. Always a good time.
I think he was about to take another shot there before he took him off.
23 by 15 porch.
23 by 15.
That's some good square footage out there in Charleston,
I'll
Tim.
do some multiplication there. I think like 345 square feet off the top of my head.
That's
Doing my
almost-
math in my head.
That's almost as big as my apartment.
3,045, something like that. Anyway,
Anyway,
we got one more call.
good stuff indeed. But and to Tim's point too, getting those free agency acquisitions, that's another reason that you want to play strong. You want to finish strong this season because free agents want to go to teams where they say, okay, that team could potentially win, as opposed to, okay, that's a team that I might not have any success in.
Correct. Money talks more than anything else.
That's true.
But for veteran
But
guys,
all things being equal,
you would want to go to the better team.
Right,
That's correct.
right, absolutely. 201-939-4513. Back
State
to the
tax
phone
helps
lines.
too, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. That does play a role.
And the Giants don't have much of a control over that one. So
Yeah, not ideal
No.
indeed. Jeff in Rhode Island, you're on the line with Madelyn and Schmeelk on Big Blue Kickoff Live this Wednesday afternoon. How's it going, Jeff?
Hey, Jeff.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, Johnny, you got one more caller. That's me.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Jeff. Haven't talked to you in a while. Hope you're well.
The same to you both as well.
Thank you.
You know I love the show. Johnny, you know I've been with you since day one.
Since day
when
one,
you
I know
were
it,
on-
Jeff.
You were on Wednesdays, once a week.
Yep. Big Blue hits before it became Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Yeah, that's right, and I've been with you all along. But before I start venting...
Hey, it's the airing of the grievances. It's still Festivus
is,
after
that's
all.
No, I hate to say it, but I haven't been a fan as long as our friend down in Maryland has. I can't believe
Len?
he was going to Giants football games when he was 3 years of age. I think Len may be a little bit older than I am. I'm 73 now. And I guess that would make Len a little bit older than me if he was going to the Polo Grounds. But anyways, God bless him.
Yep.
My point is, Johnny, I need things to turn around. I'm kind of running out of time a little bit, and, I don't know if I have another 20 years to invest in the Giants getting to another Super Bowl.
I have faith in you, Jeff. I think you can get to 93.
Jeff, hold on.
I feel good about that.
Well,
Don't be a quitter, Jeff.
Due to modern medicine, I may be somewhere. I don't know if I'll be watching the game, but...
Maybe we can upload you into some type of device.
Well, yeah, some kind of device will be good. Yeah, that would
Into
be
one of
really good.
sideline Surface tablets,
Yeah.
Get you right up in there.
Yeah, but anyways, I'm always hoping for the best, and I would love to see him beat the Eagles the last game of the year. That would be very good. That would be a step in the right direction.
Oh, my God. Do you know how many angry phone calls from Giant fans looking for draft picks would be if they beat the Eagles in the final game of the year,
yeah,
Jeff?
but,
especially if the Eagles rested all their starters, and then you end up winning, and they pick 8th instead of 5th. The calls that I'm going to get on Monday, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be Armageddon, and I'm going to get very annoyed about it.
Refer him to me, John. We can't be going out there and losing our
I
purpose.
agree.
Exactly.
No. Of course, you can't.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's
And no one
listening.
would. No one would.
Of course. Well, anyways, Happy New Year, guys. Thank you
too,
for
Jeff.
everything, and God bless.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Jeff.
You
Just
too, Jeff.
hold on for another 20 years for us. Yeah.
I got a call similar to that on one of our radio post games earlier in the year. He's like, "Yeah, I'm 80. I only got a couple years left to me." I'm like, "Dude, come on."
He's like, I don't know how many seasons I got left in me.
know.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair when you're playing the back nine there, Jeff. But you know what? That's okay. The clubhouse is still a few holes away. You got a couple par fives. You got time. You got time. You're no quitter. We believe in you.
Hey, look, and guys, you have to remember, this is real, and just remember when Joe Shane and Brian Daboll got here. Mm-hmm. We were not talking about this as a 1-year project or a 2-year project. Year one was supposed to be the teardown, and year 2 was supposed to be the first year of the rebuild.
Right.
It's just that last year went so well, it kind of messed with everybody's idea of what this time frame was going to be and how fast it was going to go. And I think we have to recalibrate to where we were when this process started.
Right.
And understanding that, look, this is going to take some time. And look, which gets Hugo, you had to replace Leonard Williams. We'll see if Adoree Jackson comes back. That's a guy you might have to replace if he doesn't make a return. Again, where you are with the Giants in this rebuilding process, how much do you want to spend money on older veterans? You know what I mean? So it's going to be a process moving forward. I know Giant fans don't want to hear that. You want to continue to get better, continue to make progress, and you hope it's faster. And if you have a really good draft class and some of your guys from the last 2 draft classes take big steps in year 2 or year 3, things can get accelerated and things can go faster. You hope that happens. But these things do take some time. Look at the Lions. Dan Campbell was there for 2 years. They were terrible.
And now it took them 30 years to win the division. So it's hopefully the Giants don't have to wait that long. Jeff,
there you go.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're not manifesting that for you, Jeff.
There you go.
But I mean, you look at, and to your point, last season was not supposed to be as good as it was. But it's that out of division schedule that was so favorable that, I mean, you look at the situation that up until week 17, almost every team in the NFC East was going to make the playoffs. It was a situation that it was potentially that every team in the division was going to make the playoffs because of the way that they played these other teams and the strength of these other teams. Now that leveled up this season, it was a little bit of a tougher schedule. You're seeing a little bit more of a realistic gauge as to where this Giants team stands talent-wise. And again, going against the division is the biggest measuring stick.
And to your point, Madelyn, the Eagles were 14-3 last year. They're going to have a couple fewer wins this year. Exactly. And Dallas will probably have one less win as well. So I think, and Washington has a worse record also. So I think you're seeing the entire division take a little bit of a step back because of the tougher schedule.
Because of the tougher schedule this year, exactly. And so now we're kind of more at the reality point of where this team is and where they can build from. And that being said, going into this season, a lot of people were saying 7 wins was the sweet spot. We're at 5 right now with 2 games to go. Do I think they'll get to 7? Probably not. 6, maybe.
Hey, who knows? You never know. It's the NFL.
No, it's the NFL.
Squeeze them out.
But so that being said, when you look at the expectations going into the season and where they ended up, it's kind of aligned. So just about finding that sweet spot there.
Madelyn, this was fun.
This was fun, indeed. A fun little Wednesday afternoon hanging out with you, Schmeelk, and all of our callers. Thanks so much for calling in. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, part of the Giants platforms everywhere and giants.com/podcast. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think. Until next time, I'm Madelyn. He's Schmeelk. Have a good one.